Hello, everybody. It's Graham Coath with another My Music. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Whatever you're doing, whether you're at work or at play, do stop it. Put your pens and your paper down. Turn off your Excel spreadsheets, because in a minute I'm going to be speaking to Barry from Modernlove. First, we're going to watch this. Barry, thanks so much for joining me today. Part of the four-piece Modernlove, from Ireland originally, from a place called, now I'm rubbish with pronunciations, but tell me if I'm getting this right. So Drogheda, yeah? Is that pretty much how you pronounce it?
It's Drogheda.
Drogheda, right, okay.
Yeah.
Now I looked that up. I looked that up prior to doing this. So a population of just over 30,000 people. What's that like musically growing up in that area?
I suppose it's kind of that idea in a lot of like pop punk and indie music of like, that like small town boredom, kind of growing up in that. And especially as a bunch of musicians, you kind of look to places like London, New York, like California, where stuff is always happening, and kind of getting a bit envious of that. But I suppose it's still influenced and informed our music in its own way. Sort of the songs that we've written are kind of all about that place, all about going out in Drogheda and our escapades there.
Yeah, and partly to do with escaping that place maybe as well then.
Yeah, I think it was actually recently that me and Danny, our bassist, were talking about it. And I think the first song we ever wrote was our song Us, which kind of has this like stadium vibe. And like we had no right to be trying to write a song to play in a stadium. But I think it was that escapism, being from like a small place and just wanting to, just be in front of loads of people and communicate with them and be traveling the world, I suppose, and kind of just being very ambitious with our music from the get-go.
Yeah. Did you all grow up in musical households? Did you have music running through your families, or?
Yeah, I mean, Cian, our drummer, his dad is a drummer as well. I think he started drumming when he was like 3 years old. And then I think we've all, apart from that, kind of just, we grew up listening to music and like just listening to our parents' music in the backs of their cars and stuff. There's definitely a lot of appreciation for music in all of our houses.
When you first started that, when you first got together, was it more a group of friends that wanted to hang out together, or was it very purposefully, we're going to do music?
I'm not really sure. Like, I mean, me and Cian have been friends since we were like 4 or 5. There was definitely no intention of starting a band back then. But then I went off to a different school, and Cian met Graham when they were like 13, 14, and they just started like jamming out in the back of our friend's shed. And then they got onto me. They just needed someone to sing like Nirvana covers, stuff like that. And I said I'd pop down. I don't think I sang anything for the first few sessions. And then I don't really know. Danny joined the band later, and very shortly after that, we were recording our own music and like writing it and playing gigs and taking it a bit more seriously. Maybe Danny always had that in the back of his mind. Maybe he got us going. But I think it's kind of just something that we like fell into. Yeah. I'm not sure what the intention was at the start. It kind of feels like forever ago, and like we just kind of, it just feels like when we get up today, we don't really question it. Kind of just the band is kind of.
Well, I'm always intrigued when it's a male in particular who's then become a singer of a band where it didn't necessarily start out with you from a young age were put up on stage and done this and that. When did you find your voice, as it were? Because it's not a natural thing necessarily to be a young lad and go, right, I'm going to sing in front of my peers.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought of being in a band when I was a kid, and it was only because they asked me to be in the band. But I suppose I was always kind of like, I sang in like, school plays at Christmas, that kind of thing. And yeah, kind of just always liked singing, but I never growing up intended to do it. I didn't think that was like something I would, do for maybe a job. And it was just after I joined the band and we started like writing songs and sort of the lads kind of motivated me to do it, I suppose.
Now,
and then after that, yeah.
Well, some people, when I talk to them, in terms of their influences in music, it's very obvious from the music itself. I would say, and I could be wrong on this, but I would say that it's probably easier to see your influences from the videos you make. Am I wrong on that?
I'm not really sure. Maybe it does come out more in the music videos. Yeah, I mean, we take influence from so many things that I think it kind of blurs sometimes. Like I wouldn't really kind of guess what other people would kind of pull from our music or what they would think our inspirations would be.
Do you feel that actually when you look visually at yourself as a band, though, there's kind of one foot in the future, but also one foot in the past, especially in terms of kind of that visual aesthetic?
Yeah, that does make sense, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to look like all of our favorite bands. I suppose that's kind of what informs the way we look. We're like, we just want to be a band, and like Block Party, the 1975, Bombay Bicycle Club, like The Cure,
yeah,
even U2. It's just like they're a really cool looking band. I want to be like them.
I get that. And when you first stood there in front of the mic, who did you pretend you were then?
I think probably Bono, which is kind of hilarious, but I mean, yeah, it's trying to probably be Bono. They were like, U2 were like probably the first band that I listened to and loved, just like the Joshua Tree being playing in the back of my mom's car, and yeah, Bono's like crazy.
But that's a great person to want to be, because he's got such a great command of an audience, I mean, whenever I've been to see U2 live, the one thing that comes over is just how brilliant a frontman he is in terms of holding that audience attention. And who wouldn't want to be that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a lot to try and emulate, but I know even if I fall short of Bono, I'll still end up, somewhere good.
You've recently done a North American tour. What was that like? How were you received over there?
Yeah, that was like, we were pinching ourselves to even be over there, and then to be selling out some venues, like in New York and LA and Chicago, Philadelphia. It was so much so fast. Like, we'd been waiting our whole lives, like to be over playing gigs in America, and then it kind of just happens to you. And there were so many places to be in a month, kind of just trying to take it all in all of the time, but you can't really.
No.
But yeah, I mean, like the crowds were great. Yeah, like so enthusiastic.
I was going to say, what's the difference between an American audience and an English audience? They just start dancing straight away.
Yeah, I was going to say something like that. Yeah, I feel like you don't need to convince them as much as maybe like a crowd in Ireland or the UK. Sometimes when you get on stage, if it's like from a place where people are just, just a bit more reserved, like naturally, or like more chilled out, you need to convince them to kind of have fun, to let it go.
Yeah, it's so there. I spoke to an American artist last week on here, and she was saying it's, you know, she's noticed that when she's come over here to play, it's like people don't seem to come out ready to party, and they have to warm up.
yeah. The only places in the UK I found that they were like that was maybe Glasgow and Liverpool.
Right.
They were like ready to go from the start. But yeah, I'm much more happy being from like Ireland and sort of having experience with UK crowds and Irish crowds first, and then going over there. I'd find it very hard to be an American artist and come over here and realize that not everyone is just, you know, crazy ready to just like lose their shit and enjoy music.
Yeah. Now you've got an EP that came out March 24th, Nightlife EP. 6 songs in total, I believe, on that. Going through some of those songs again, the one thing that kind of underpins a lot of your music is that you can dance to it. There's that driving beat to it, and of course there's a theme about sort of going out and, you know, exploring life in all of those things. I loved, by the way, the video to Only Ever You with the supermarket scanner at the beginning of that. Who inspired that? Because that is a moment that all of us share in life, which is getting stuck at the supermarket scanner. But I suppose it's kind of a metaphor as well, really, as for kind of getting stuck.
Yeah. I mean, the whole music video was kind of just taking inspiration from like this last year before we kind of like jumped into like tour. And yeah, like this year is the first like year we've ever been doing this band, you know, full time. It's the first time we've been like really busy with it and too busy to, you know, work regular jobs. So that music video is kind of just what we've been doing. Like I've been doing factory shifts, 12 hours day and night, and Danny's been doing the same. Graham was like working in a bar and stuff, and it was kind of just that, like, you know, biding our time, waiting to come out of the woodwork and just start playing music, and kind of just that frustration being in a small place and knowing that we were sitting on something, you know, with a lot of potential, and kind of just going a bit
people
mad.
don't realize just what musicians go through
Definitely,
in order to make it these days. You know, most of the musicians that I talk to, even who have, you know, maybe even had like, you know, a charted album, etc., still working. They're not, you know, they're not working as full-time musicians. It's a real hard slog. How much do you have to want it?
I mean, it's just it needs to be a lot. It needs to be kind of the only thing that you want, I think, because it's just the amount of time that it takes up, and there's absolutely like no pay. Like you're kind of, until you've made it, you know, in some huge crazy, you know, movie way, there's not much you get back other than just like the joy of the songs, and you know, the people who love your music and sing them back to you. You're kind of just always like just spending money to do it, I suppose, and finding the time to do that is really tough, and kind of it's sort of just exhausting as well.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and just doing the other stuff as well outside of the music, like social media and doing stuff like this.
No, this is grand. I like doing this. The social media thing is just, I suppose like a few years ago it wasn't a band's job to be good, or an artist's job to be good at social media, but now that's just a given. Like you're a social media, you know, person if you're an artist now. I suppose you need to have visibility.
Well, we see that. I mean, we you know, we see the rise of musicians who typically don't have the kind of, you know, standard record company contract in the same way that they used to, and actually everything is about, you know, releasing singles one after the other, promoting it through sort of constant TikTok or Instagram or whatever activity, and constantly making these little videos and these little shorts. You know, I think it must be nice to be to in a way manage to make it as a band without having to do too much of that. But it's very few and far between.
Absolutely.
Now listen, there's another one of the songs on there which is called "Ruin Your Night." That has to beg the question: what would ruin your night then?
Oh man, whatever happened in that song, just I don't know, fighting. It's kind of.
Well, is that something that used to happen quite a lot when you used to go out for the evening?
Like I mean, it always happens, I suppose, in any relationship. Eventually, there's going to be times where you're kind of just it's a bit inescapable, and no matter what you do, you end up in the same situation every time you go out, having fights and stuff like that.
In terms of where you go now as a band, obviously you've got this EP out. Do you see yourself as an EP type band, or do you see yourself settling into being an album band at some point? Because you've got the songs there.
Yeah, I mean the end goal has always been an album, a debut album. I think we'll have another EP after this one. And the idea behind that is just kind of, I don't know, providing context for like who the band is and who we are, like as people and like musically, before an album's like released, kind of like setting the groundwork and kind of building up, you know, our own little world, and then releasing an album into that, I suppose. Yeah, I think an album in the next year or two, and then we'll be an album band.
I think, given your energy as a band, you all right? Do you want some water?
Oh no, I'm all good.
Pass him some water through the screen.
Yeah.
I think, given your energy as a band, given your sound, etc., I can really see you as a festival band. Are you looking for that big festival moment to kind of catapult you? Because I personally think that's where it may come from.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've always I mean, you know, who doesn't enjoy a festival anyway? But yeah, like bands like Block Party and like Kings of Leon, like the bands of those like big like festival days, those are like the kind of bands that we love. And yeah, I would love for that to happen.
I would love for that to happen for you as well. Who would be the dream sort of support slot for you if you could get on the support roster with a particular artist? Who would that be?
There's definitely a lot. I don't know what like all the guys in the band would think. I mean, probably between the 1975 and like I think Kings of Leon like had a like tour diaries thing out a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they seem to have a lot of fun on tour, so I'd like to be a part of that.
It's partly who you get on with as well, isn't it? I think if you're going to do that.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you for coming and talking to me today. I hope people now go and check out your music. As I say, Nightlife EP was out March 24th, available across platforms. Can you give us some idea? Are you got gigs coming up?
Yeah, so we'll be playing like a lot of festivals over the summer in the UK at like Truck and Tramlines, Victorious, live at Leeds, and The Great Escape. I think we have like one gig in London, as part of like a little festival called Whiplash. I think that's on like the 9th of May, and then in October we'll be coming back to do a whole another run of UK dates, UK tour in October.
Well, I hope you include somewhere in the southwest within that, so I can come along and see you, because that would be absolutely fantastic. But until then, Barry, thanks for coming and talking to me.
Cheers, man.
I hope you've enjoyed this. Folks, do go and check out the music of Modernlove. If you haven't done that already, why not? And please share this with all of your friends, not because I want to get famous, because that's never going to happen at my age, but because people like this really need your support. This has been My Music with Graham Cove. If you've enjoyed it, thank you very much. Bye for now. Thanks, Barry.
Cheers. Thanks so much, Graham.